The biggest themes we'll hear about at the Raise Summit 2026 in Paris is that enterprise AI is moving beyond experimentation into execution. Organizations are now facing two fundamental challenges. The first is context, giving AI agents the enterprise knowledge they need to reason accurately, make better decisions, and work safely. The second, operationalization. How do you actually deploy, govern, connect, and scale thousands of AI workloads across increasingly distributed infrastructure? It's the second challenge that we're going to focus on today. As enterprises embrace hyperscalers, sovereign clouds, AI infrastructure providers like NeoClouds, edge environments, and on-premise infrastructure, operating AI has become significantly more complex than simply choosing the right model. The challenge is building an intelligent operating layer that lets organizations deploy AI wherever it makes the most sense without adding more operational complexity. To discuss this and how organizations can achieve that, I'm joined by Dmitry, who's the CEO of Emma. Welcome on board, Dmitry.
Yeah, hi. Thanks for having me.
This is great. I think this is going to set us up really well for next week in Paris. Organizations have tried to standardize on a single cloud. This has been going on for years now. Today, they're using hyperscalers, sovereign clouds, AI providers, edge locations, and on-premise brownfield infrastructure simultaneously. My view is that every enterprise should start looking a little more like a NeoCloud themselves. Why do you think the operating model has become a real bottleneck rather than an infrastructure itself?
Fashion. I've been thinking a lot about this recently. My take is that infrastructure is easy to get now. You have a lot of providers, right? So you can get compute in 15 different places by Friday. So the hard, especially in the US, right? So, I mean, you have a lot of providers, NeoClouds. Here in Europe, we are a little bit limited. However, we still have a lot of places where we can get the equipment or the hardware rented by Friday. The hard part is running all of them together. I think AI pushed everyone into the distributed infrastructures. So many vendors like GPU vendors, cloud vendors, sovereign regions, data that cannot move, edge computing, on-prem environments. So all of this, and every company now looks like a small cloud provider, like you've mentioned. I like the analogy. But at the end of the day, nobody gave them the right way to operate all this fleet like one, right? So, I mean, they still have a lot of fragmented pieces and disconnected environments. They put these infrastructures together, but nobody helped them or nobody taught them how to operate this properly. That's why I do believe that the operations look like a bottleneck in here.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think, companies winning with AI today don't think about deploying workloads only to a cloud. They think about placing those workloads wherever the cost, performance, compliance, and capacity makes the most sense. Is that really the new operating model? And if so, does every enterprise now need to operate like a NeoCloud? Because that's kind of how they operate as well, without hiring hundreds of cloud engineers.
Uh, yeah, I think so. I do believe that winners that don't just deploy to, let's say, one specific cloud, right? They put each workload where the cost, performance, compliance, and capacity makes sense. So basically, they choose uh, the best setup when it is needed for a specific workload and move it when things change or circumstances they change. Inference makes this obvious, right? So it runs all the time and it's very, very price sensitive and it's very, very latency sensitive. So placement is, I would say, placement becomes a daily decision in this matter, not at a one-time deploy. So this is how the NeoClouds think, and we have a lot of NeoClouds as a partner, so that's why we know how they think. But unfortunately, no CIOs, or I mean, little CIOs think the same way. I think in the future we will not be hiring 300 cloud engineers, like you just mentioned yourself, to do it hands-on. And I do believe that it has to come to a, let's say, automation or software layer, not a headcount to do this optimizations, placement, management, deployment, and scaling.
Yeah, I agree. I think again, it's become really, you know, complicated. I mean, the state of the art is that enterprises already have, a cloud management platform, infrastructure as code, Kubernetes, FinOps, and now they are adding, another layer of AI copilots on top of that. Why isn't layering AI onto those tools enough? And what's fundamentally missing that prevents organizations from operating their infrastructure the way a modern NeoCloud operating model does?
It's a great question, especially in the era of MCPs that pop up here and there, and a lot of native embedded tools like Cursor recently has launched, or Codex also has. So, but I think the broader answer would be because all those different tools, they set up once your infrastructure and then they walk away, right? So, or I mean, they just simply live somewhere in the user space. They are static. Adding an AI copilot to these tools or on top of them just writes the config faster, right? It still doesn't run the environment itself. And what is really missing in this loop, I think the following important bullet points where you deploy the infrastructure, where you monitor, watch how the infrastructure behaves, where you optimize this infrastructure, and as we discussed, move when it's needed. And you do it consistently and all the time with the different policies that you check and execute, and you do not add them later. They are added in parallel and they work simultaneously with the with the other sort of tools, or like the other things that work in parallel that I have already touched. And they are kind of like separate per provider, and the network between them belongs to someone else. And I mean, that drives us to complete mess. So writing Terraform faster, I would say, is a kind of a like feature, and it's not like an operating layer. That's why adding Copilot to, let's say, existing infrastructures, code Kubernetes tools, whatever, is not a solution for anyone.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think, again, this is why when I first heard of, Emma's infrastructure as prompt concept here and your product, I was wondering whether if it was just, natural language for Terraform. But when I started to dig into it, the more I felt it was you were proposing an entirely new operating layer. How would you explain infrastructure as prompt to someone who already understands infrastructure as code? And why is this distinction so important to them?
Yeah, it's a great question. And actually, when you first time highlighted this to me, I realized that we really need to work on the let's say in the on the explanation side of things, because at the beginning it always sounds like, yeah, it's a kind of like infrastructure is called wrapper. So but it's different. Infrastructure as code means that you tell the cloud how to build something like infrastructure step by step for each provider. And I mean, you simply outline this with a scripting language, and then you use it to deploy the environment, period. I mean, declarative approach. Infrastructure as prompt means you say what you want and how you see this. So, for example, I need 40 B300s in Europe on a private network under this specific budget. and the platform works out how this should be built, what actually needs to be deployed, where, what type of services need to sit on top, and keeps it good as things change, no matter what is changing. So my analogy that infrastructure as code is a kind of a photo, right? While infrastructure as prompt is a living loop, like more advanced technology. It's not just a natural, like you've mentioned, not just a natural language or natural language wrapper for a Terraform. The prompt is just an input. However, underneath of our platform, it turns into a saved, control, governed execution. So we've built a lot of guardrails. We've built a lot of a harness on top of this natural language prompting, and your infrastructure as code, doesn't die with this approach. We're not saying that we're eliminating this completely, right? It becomes the thing that prompt compiles into, and the way nobody writes the assembly by hand anymore. So that's what we have built.
Yeah, I think it's neat. I really think that it solves for the complexity, which I think is great. I think it definitely changes the landscape. But what happens when every cloud management platform announces their AI assistant over the next year? How does that change the market? And as you look ahead to what capability will separate companies that simply manage multiple clouds from those who can actually operate like a global AI infrastructure provider, and why is it something that Emma has architected to deliver since day one?
That's the good point, actually. So I think the main difference that we have created and that we have introduced and we have been working on for the past 8 years as the whole setup where you have these providers everywhere across the globe. We have interconnected them with the network. Then we have built a comprehensive API gateway with embedded harness, governance, etc. So we haven't just built a kind of like chat box that is connected to a certain dashboard. This is actually what a lot of people are trying to release these days. This is like a chat bot that is connected to a specific dashboard. And I think that's just a cosmetic, right? Because models, they hallucinate. And as I said, harness is one of the most important parts of it. The real difference sits, as I said, underneath, below the prompt layer. And this is what we've been building for like 8 years now. It is a comprehensive engine where we can we can provide our customers with the assurance that if they use it, the outcome is 100% matches their expectations. So we do believe that our platform wins because we actually can, with like infrastructure's prompt approach, we can actually move the workloads. We can actually redesign the network. We can actually spin up the resources and the exact resources customer really needs. And customer is always aware on the each step we take, what kind of decisions we make. Customer can interrupt the system at any moment of, let's say, his choice. Moreover, what is important, if the system gets, let's say, a basic prompt, let's call it that way, and system doesn't understand what you actually want to achieve, system doesn't stupidly follow this simple, let's say, directive thing. So the system gets back to you saying, look, man, I do not understand what is going on. So let's try to rephrase this. Are you trying to deploy an application? What kind of an application? Is it a web application? Is it like a React application, where does it live? And how you see this? Why do you think you need like a GPU compute? Do you, by the way, need also the agents that collect the monitoring data and stream it to a certain dashboard? Oh, by the way, we have recently deployed the VM that you asked, and I mean all the ports, they are open to the entire internet. Maybe we should close these ports. We need to create a security group, etc. So system constantly communicates with you and makes you aware of everything that is going on. So it's not just a chatbot that is connected to a dashboard. That's why, I mean, there's a huge difference in principles of what we have built and what we've been building for the past 8 years, and something that pops up here and there in the marketplace these days.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think, again, to your point about tying all of it together, one of the things that had brought me that direction was the fact that, you know, the private networking backbone, the being able to have the workload mobility, continuous placement, and again, the sovereignty that you've built in, because sovereign AI is going to be another big story next week at Raise. But, I think this is going to be the year where people have to really go beyond, being, hey, I could statically place things and really focus on being more like a NeoCloud and an infrastructure provider that is constantly looking at where to have it best placed based on the workload's requirements. Any last words you want to say before we jump off here?
Yeah, I mean, I think I think I could do this for hours and hours, right? But I think the the best way to try it is to reach out to us if you're around Paris or Race conference next week. We still, I think, have a few tickets available as a sponsors of this event. Right after the race conference, so starting from the 10th of July, infrastructure prompt will be available to everyone through our platform. So you can simply sign up and get access to it and try it yourself. So yeah, happy to meet everyone who's interested in Paris, or if you cannot make it, as I said, just make sure you save the date, and after the 10th of July you get instant access to our website.
Awesome. Yeah, I can't wait to meet up with the people there myself. I can't wait to hang with you guys and everybody from Emma next week in Paris. This is going to be a lot of fun. Thanks for coming on board, Dmitry.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for